What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Scout Speak with Ryan Wesley. And on this episode, we are going to do another Recruiting 101. We're going to talk about the truth about highlight film. Now, it's no secret that highlight film is arguably the most important aspect of recruiting. Honestly, I would take the arguably part out of there and just say it really is the most important aspect of recruiting, because the only thing better than that is in person, as I'm watching you in person. The thing about film is when it comes to football and recruiting, it's less about what you know and it's always more about what you show. I mean, if anything, that's just a part of life. It's, what was it? Denzel Washington in Training Day, his character Alonzo said it best. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. It's no different here in high school football with recruiting. It's not what you know, it's what you show. If we look at the 3 tips that I gave before about where to start in recruiting for high school football, those 3 tips were Twitter, film, and go to college camps. And I want to treat that as like a tripod of where to start in recruiting. Tripods have 3 legs. The difference about highlight film is with those other 2, it's a tripod. Highlight film can actually stand on its own and be more of like a monopod. By itself, you can get recruited off a highlight film. You might not have a Twitter. You might not be able to go to college camps or anything like that. But if you have film and you got email and you have other ways of contacting coaches and getting your film out in front of people, the film by itself can work wonders for you. So let's keep that in mind, because when it comes to Twitter and when it comes to college camps, those 2 by themselves are kind of like more of a bipod. You can get recruited off of those 2 and not necessarily have film, but it's going to be difficult because they're still going to want to see how you play. They got to see you. So you might not have film, but you might be lucky enough to go to a camp and make connections on Twitter with coaches who might be in your area and they're able to come and watch your game in person, right? So if they see you in person, because again, it's not what you know, it's what you show. That's the same thing as like watching film, except they just get to see a full game and they get to see everything. Now, having film by itself isn't enough. Right. There are a lot of people who have highlight film who don't realize that their highlight film is actually working against them. And I think this is something that doesn't get talked about enough. We say you need to have film and pass your film out and cut your film up, but a lot of kids don't know how to do it correctly. And they end up doing it however they think is best in their mind, or if somebody helps them out and however that somebody thinks is best in their mind. And it might not be properly structured, which ends up working against them. And that's what we want to kind of provide some clarity on is film structure. That's a big deal, right? Film structure can make or break your highlight film. So it is important that you have it, but having it on its own and improperly structuring it is like putting a hole in a boat and hopping out and throwing that boat out there into the lake and jumping in it and expecting it to work. You got a boat, but it's got a hole in it, so it's not going to float, right? So the first thing that I want to advise when it comes to structuring your highlight film or getting ready to put highlight film together is you got to know your target audience. First of all, you need to know who your target audience is, and then you want to know what it is that they are looking for, how they watch film. Your target audience is one group of people only. It's just one, and that is whoever can give scholarships. That's it. Your highlight film is not for your family members. It's not for your buddies. It's not for the media people. It's not for recruiting assistance people. It's honestly not for any of them. Your target audience are college coaches and the staffers who can give scholarships. Period. That's it. That's a full stop. So the important thing is knowing how these guys are watching film and what it is that they want to see, because that's all that matters. So what I would say first, right? We understand who our target audience is. Now, what is the point of it for them? Well, the point of your highlight film is to get those coaches to want to find out more about you. Let's say a coach watches your film and they watch your highlight and they're excited and they like what they see. And the next thing is they want to find out more by either reaching out to your coach, reaching out to somebody who knows you, reaching out to you personally, looking for game tape, following you on Twitter, like stuff like that. Your highlight film has done its job. The goal of it is not to get a scholarship from your film alone. That's actually very difficult and it's rare, right? It's a lot more rare than you might think. There are very, very, very few people out there that are just being handed scholarships because somebody watched their film and goes, I'm just going to offer this kid, especially if they don't already have offers. That's rare. But what will happen is that when they watch your highlight film, they want to see more. Think of it like a preview for a movie. A lot of the times we see previews for movies that look really, really good, and all the best parts are in the preview, and you go and watch the movie, you buy a ticket, you buy whatever from the concessions, or you bring in your own concessions, and you sit down and you watch this movie in theater, and guess what? The preview did its job. That's what it was for. It was to get you to buy a ticket, to spend the money, and go sit down and find out. Now, whether you like it or you didn't like the film is irrelevant to the preview itself, because the preview is purposed to get you to watch the film, right? To watch the whole movie. Your highlight is the same exact way. Your highlight is purposed to get them to want to find out more about you. Now, if your highlight film is enough for them to want to come find out more about you, and then you start to progress in the recruiting with them because they watch your highlight and they went and watched the full tape and they like what they saw there. They talk to your coaches and they like what they see there. Now you're getting invited to camps, or you're getting invited to come and see the school, either unofficially or officially. That's when you know you're in the recruiting process and maybe you get an offer out of it. Especially if you're getting an OV, you're probably going to get an official visit. You're probably going to get an offer that maybe, right? I don't want to say probably, get anybody hopes up who's taking an official visit soon and you don't get one. But usually if you're taking an official visit, they're paying for you to come out there. Now they are investing in you as a prospect, not necessarily as a recruit just yet, not necessarily as somebody that they're offering just yet, but they are investing in you to see if this is going to be a good fit. There are levels and stages to this. And if it started with your highlight film has done its job at that point. So that's another thing you got to understand. You're not swinging for the fences with your highlight film to try to get an offer by putting everything there. That's not what it's there for, okay? It's actually smarter to keep it simple, right? You got a limited time to catch and keep the attention of the college coaches, okay? So that's going to take us into now the beginning structure of the highlight film. And understand this, the first 1 to 3 plays of your highlight film are critical. Absolutely critical. Because depending on the level of college football that you're sending your highlight film out to, so let's say hypothetically speaking, you were looking to go play for Ohio State, right? You want to be recruited by Ohio State. Well, here's the thing. If your first play isn't Ohio State attention grabbing worthy, like worthy of grabbing the attention of Ohio State coaches, they're going to turn your film off. The odds of your second play being watched are slim, right? If your first play doesn't blow them away, your second play might not get watched. And if the second play isn't one of those where they look up and they go, man, that second play should have actually been the first play. This play was crazy. If they don't say that, if they do make it to the second play, they probably turned it off. Just going to let you know that right now, okay? You have 1 to 3 plays to convince that college football coach to watch another 1 to 3 plays. And it resets just about every play, especially depending on the level of the coach that is watching your film. All right. So you got to understand that your first 10 plays, right? Your very beginning of your highlight film, had the first 1 to 5, however many plays you have that are absolute bangers, they need to be at the front. Plain and simple. Okay. They got to be the first play. Your first play has to be the best play that you have on film. And this is where it comes to know that chronological order, right, of your film can break your film. That's a killer. You don't want to go in chronological order. Partly because if you think about it from a developmental standpoint, right, there's a reason why when they say the senior film, your highlights, your 1 to 3 games are so important, because they're giving you game 1 because you're back from the off season. It's game 1. It's the first game. Game 2, then game 3, right? You should be in full season swing and all that stuff. Then when you go and cut that up, your best plays need to be in the front. Your best plays need to be in the front. They don't want to see progression in your highlight film. That's what the full tape is for. That's what going and watching game tape is actually for. They can see the full progression if they jump on NFHS Network and watch your high school game. I can watch an entire game right there and see what I need to see from a player. A highlight film might make me want to go and watch a whole game. Right? I don't personally have the access to the recruiter access to watch your full games on Huddle, but I can watch your highlight and say, you know what, I want to go see more of this player. And then I watch your game on NFHS and I'm tracking you on there. And now I'm starting to get a gauge of who you are as a player for the entirety of the football game rather than just the best parts, because that's what the highlight's supposed to be, is the best parts of what you have to offer, the absolute best. Right? One of the things that I really, really advise people to be aware of is if you start to be critiqued from your highlight film, you're going in the wrong direction. Right? You don't want to be critiqued from your highlight film as much as possible. Right? Obviously, you're going to be. Everybody is. It's an evaluation. So there's critiquing that happens automatically. But you want the minimum amount of critiquing to be done from your highlight film, because it's supposed to be the best of what you have, of what you've on the field. We talked about your target audience and the importance of highlight film and what the point of highlight film is, right? And now we're talking about your top plays and avoiding that chronological order stuff, okay? Your first 10 plays need to be the best plays that you possibly have. Now, I know a lot of people look at that and they're like, well, I don't get the ball that much, or this is a big one with defensive backs. I don't get targeted a lot. Okay, cool. Show me why you're not getting targeted a lot. If you're not getting targeted a lot, I should be able to see that on film, right? All those plays of you being able to lock down a guy in coverage, you should be able to show me your techniques. I should see a lot of polished techniques and skills and be able to see why it is you're not getting targeted, right? Show that on film. Don't tell me that you're a defensive back who doesn't get targeted a lot. Show me that you're a defensive back that doesn't get targeted a lot. I can see that on film. Now, another thing with film, when it comes to its purpose of being, you know, the reason why they want to ask more questions, one thing that people do that they don't realize works against them is they make their film way too long. Try to keep your film under 4 minutes as much as possible. Okay. Understand that anything after that is extra. Most people won't watch after that. All right. And I've had a rebuttal come out. Well, if they're not going to watch, what does it matter if it's there or not? Anyway, you might as well add it because it's only going to help you. And I say that's wrong, because if somebody like me is watching that, once I get 3 minutes into the film and it starts to get a little repetitive, which happens, right? Not a lot of guys out there have film that you can go 3 to 5 minutes and it's just amazing play after amazing play, right? There are guys out there that do that. I mean, you have 8-minute highlight tapes where people will watch it and they'll watch it again and they'll watch it again. It's just like that. I mean, everybody wants to watch Percy Harvin's highlight tape, right? Not everybody's Percy Harvin. There's a reason why the top percent is the top percent. Usually the people who can do that, most of these tips and advices, like, they don't need it because what you do as a player and who you are as a player can determine how much of the legwork you got to do for these recruiting stuff. Because sometimes, man, dudes are just dudes, and their skill and their athleticism, and some of it is just God-given talent. It's so good that they don't really need this stuff. But for the majority, you got to play your cards right and you got to know what you're doing. And so when you start having film that's longer than 4 minutes, you run a risk of adding too much and adding unnecessary stuff where you will get critiqued, and the likelihood of you having the right plays in the right order are slim. Right. So if you cut it down and you know that you have a target time of, like, I don't know, 3 minutes, okay, give or take 30 seconds. If you have a target time of there, it's going to limit the plays you put in there. And now you got to understand you're looking for the best possible plays, which is exactly what this is supposed to be. Because adding that extra, it can work against you. Now, going back to the people who think that they don't have the most exciting plays, you're not scoring touchdowns, you're not getting interceptions, you're not, you don't have that many of them, you're not getting the fumbles, the biggest hits or stuff like that. It starts to dwindle down to more technique driven plays. That needs to be on your highlight film. It's perfectly fine, right? Having clips on there that show excellent technique and hustle plays are outstanding additions. Okay. So again, let's use the defensive back one, because this is a big deal with DBs. A lot of the times they're like, well, if I'm not making the tackle, if I'm not getting an interception or something like that, then clearly that play wasn't worth it. But then I'll see them in person, and because they won't add that stuff on their film. That's the only thing that they have on there. But I'll watch them in person, and I'm like, why is this play not on film, where you show me a proper stance, a proper start, a great technique, and then you're maintaining your leverage, you're flipping your hips correctly, you're closing space, you're taking air out of the space between you and the receiver, especially at the top of the routes. The receiver's not able to get open. That should be on film. That right there is what impresses coaches. That's what we want to see. We want to see if you can play your position correctly. You're not always going to necessarily have the play come your way, especially the further away from the play that you are. Now I also want to see, once you recognize that the play is on the other side of the field, that you are properly hustling to that side of the field, right? You're doing your swarm and all that stuff. I want to see you working your way to the ball in a proper sense. Are you the backside corner and you're having to work your way to the ball and you're properly replacing the safety from your end? Or are you just vacating space and running straight there and open cutback lanes? Like, these are things that we'll see on film, right? So if you don't have the most outstanding plays, sometimes the best fillers for that are your best technique plays, the ones that show how you move and what you look like when the play isn't coming your way. But the best ones, right? Your best ones. You'll have a bunch of them. Some of them are good enough to just be found watching regular tape. I want to see the ones that make me go, oh, wow, right? We want to see eyebrow raisers in good ways. Not a single eyebrow raise. I want to see the double eyebrow raise, the head nod, like, oh, wow, the eyes getting wide on certain plays. That's what we're looking for. If you don't have those pick sixes or PBUs or forced fumbles, flying downhill, running the alley, making a tackle at the line of scrimmage, or at, right past the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage from where you are. Like, those are things that we want to see. You guys got to understand how to watch football. And that is something that I will put heavily on high school coaches. And I will say that falls on them more, because you not knowing that as a player is because you weren't taught how to watch and break down film from your coaches. So these are things that need to be understood. It's, how are coaches watching film? High school coaches, you should be explaining to your guys how you watch film and how you break down film. And then players, feel free to ask questions from other sources. You should reach out to other people. Okay. Everybody has their own level of understanding something. It's never a bad thing to get more sources. There's a reason why when you are writing a paper, especially when you get in college, you need to cite multiple sources, not just one. You don't want to go off of one source, right? The one source limits the information. Broaden your horizons and find more sources of how to understand and watch film and how coaches break down film, okay? Because plays that are graded high, right? High grade reps, even if the action is away from you, that's a play that should be on your highlight film. So that's where you want to know what it is that you're looking for. Now, just going to get into some of the do's and don'ts, right? Because I want to keep this as basic as possible and let you build up from it. But the do's and don'ts of highlight film, okay? Pre-snap identifiers. When it comes to the pre-snap identifiers, again, pre-snap, I want to see you be identified by either a circle or an arrow. Keep it that simple, the basic circle or a basic arrow. I don't need to see the weird angle arrow that has the watch this squigglies on it, the weird like pinch arrows and the fire stuff. Like, I wish that Huddle would take all that stuff off of there and only offer the option of a simple arrow or a basic circle. Now, if you play on the line or within a box or in a scrum, and when I say a scrum, I mean like a bunch set. If you're a wide receiver in a bunch set, if you're a linebacker and on that play, it's you, another backer, and you got a D lineman, and it's very close together because the way that the film is being done and all that. If a circle doesn't have just you inside of the circle, use an arrow. Point to your head. Use an arrow, right? Don't be lazy. Don't let the AI nonsense do it for you. If it doesn't actually put the arrow where it needs to be, move it. You can move it manually and get it as close to your face as your helmet or whatever as you possibly can, and do it pre-snap. Not after the ball is snapped and you're running around, then it freezes. That's a terrible way to watch film, right? Nobody wants to watch it that way. Do it pre-snap unless you're not in frame. I understand if you're not in the picture, then as soon as you come in frame, like if who's ever filming has it too tight, it's zoomed in too far, and you're out of frame and they can't see you. This is why I think it's also important for those who are filming these games to understand the importance of getting all 22 players in the frame, because everybody needs that film, and it's evaluated from stance start, right? We want to see your leverage. We want to see your positioning. It's really annoying when I'm watching film and I can't see where a receiver is starting or a DB is starting because the angles are too tight on the box. I can't see where everybody is outside. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves of drone film, when the drone film is too punched in on what's happening on the box. And a lot of those guys will be like, well, the offensive coordinator and the O-line and the D-line guys, they want to be able to see it. They can't see it. Here's the one thing I'm going to tell you guys. You can zoom in. You cannot zoom out. That's what you got to understand. So however it's filmed, if they zoom in too far and film it that way, you can't zoom out. Hopefully the quality that it's being filmed in is at least 1080 or higher, and you won't lose quality when you zoom in there. But by having them film so tight, you're missing out on your defensive backs, your wide receivers, okay? So kind of keep that in mind when it comes down to these pre-snap identifiers is if you can be seen pre-snap, it needs to be pre-snap, right? Do a circle or the simple arrow, and then right when that goes away, the play should start, okay? We don't need to see you walking around and all that stuff. The next thing is shorten the clip. At the beginning, I don't need to see you guys walking around getting set to play. Like, that's a lot of wasted time. Don't waste that time, and we'll get over to that. Cut the beginning short to where it identifies you pre-snap, and as soon as the identifier goes away, the ball gets snapped, the play is going, right? Because now I know where my eyes need to be. I don't want to watch the beginning of this play and see you guys walking around and I'm trying to figure out which one you are. Especially for defensive backs who switch sides. Can't always see the number, so sometimes I don't even know what number you are, and we do rely on these identifiers. It makes it a lot easier for us to see who you are and to just focus our eyes. It keeps it simple. If you use the same one every time, we know what we're looking for. We know what to expect. By the third one, we have that habit. If it changes every three, if each one changes, now all of a sudden at the beginning of these plays, I'm like, okay, where am I? Who am I looking for? Where's this at? Right? It causes a little bit more hectic viewing than it needs to. Keep it simple, make it easier for the viewer, and use the same pre-snap identifier, and don't let the beginning of the clip run so long where it's all that unnecessary walking around. But then here's the big one, and this is huge for quarterbacks and offensive linemen. And before I get into that, I want to go back to the pre-snap identifiers, thinking about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are the only ones who don't necessarily need it. All right. If you're a QB, we know you're the QB. If you want to put one, I always say the first one, the very first play, you can do a pre-snap identifier. So it just kind of reminds the brain that, okay, yeah, we are looking at the quarterback here. And then you don't have to add it again, because that's the one position that we always know where you are. Centers are the same way, but it never hurts for a center to point out that it's them, just to, remind. But I think centers are one that we can kind of give a leeway to as well, but sometimes those guys move, right? There'll be a center on a play, they're a guard on another. Quarterbacks are kind of the only ones that don't need it unless you are lining up elsewhere. If you end up lining up elsewhere as a quarterback, make sure you highlight yourself pre-snap on that one. Otherwise, you just don't need it. It's not necessary. Anyway, going back to the shortening the clips. This is a problem that offensive linemen and quarterbacks run into. They will allow the play to go on after their job has been done and it continues to go. One, you're wasting time, right? The person watching your film is watching you. They're not necessarily there to watch the running backs or the receivers. Okay, they're trying to see the quarterback or the offensive lineman. And what I've seen a lot of O-line guys do is they'll have a great run blocking clip, and then it turns into the running back's play after that. Like, you've wasted all that time. When your job is done in the clip, end it. Move on to the next one. Okay, all that other stuff is not necessary. QBs, you're the same way. We don't need to see the yards after the catch. It's not necessary. And I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, I want to show that, this block opened up this touchdown run. And as a result, man, nobody cares. I'm telling you that it doesn't matter, because that's not what's being watched in your highlight film. They'll see that when they watch game tape. I'm going to tell you right now, most of us can already see it. If you open up a hole and there's enough space there, right? I don't necessarily need to see the running back keep going. Now, there are some people who, appreciate seeing it and it's cool and all that, but I'm going to tell you like this. I have witnessed guys who have had a film that turned into somebody else's highlight. I've seen kids get recruited off of somebody else's highlight. They're watching a highlight tape of somebody and it's like, wait, but who's this other kid? And now they turn yours off to go watch them. So here's one thing that I'm going to tell you. And this is something that you really have to understand, because this is a reality, and there's somebody out there who's going to feel some type of way about it. I'm just going to say, get over it. There is no I in team, but there is in recruit. Your highlight film is supposed to highlight you, not your teammates. That's just the reality of it. They need to have their own highlight film. So if you throw a pass, shuttle pass or a screen pass or something like that, and a wide receiver screen, and it's a shallow pass and it opens up because that receiver took it the rest of the way, that's not your highlight as a QB. That's that receiver's highlight. It doesn't do you any good. Show the stuff that you need to show. They're not necessarily trying to see you throw a 2-yard, bubble screen that goes for a 40-yard touchdown, because guess whose highlight that is? The receivers. It's not yours. So that's one thing you got to understand. So when your job is done, move on to the next clip. The rest of that stuff is unnecessary. It does not help you. Right. And that's the part that you got to understand. And you might not like that whole, it makes me feel selfish. Oh, well, man, nobody else is trying to use their platform to get you recruited over them. That's ridiculous. Okay. You worry about your future. This is recruiting. Recruiting itself is not necessarily a team sport. All right. It's not really a group thing. It can be in certain situations, but understand, each person's recruiting journey is their own. So that's what you got to realize with all these long, unnecessary plays. Like, cut it off. Once it's no longer your play, cut it off, right? Your job is done. I don't need to see you watching the play. If you're trotting behind it, watching it, throwing your hands up, guess what? It's not your clip. Go ahead and turn it off, okay? So just understand that. Now, when it comes to your highlight film, each game should have its own 3.5 minute highlight film, give or take 30 seconds, right? Each game should have its own highlight film, plain and simple. Then every 3 games should have a compilation highlight film. And when you compile those into, your first 3 games, your week 1 through 3, the easiest way to do that is to use the highlights, highlight 1, highlight 2, highlight 3, and turn that into a 1 through 3 highlight by using the first 10 plays in each one of those. Okay. And I'm not saying you have to put 30 plays on there. I'm just saying your first 5, let's say 16 or 15 to 18 plays on there is perfect that you're using from the first 3 highlights. Okay. And it's the same thing once you get for a full season. So once you have your 10 game season, if you've done it correctly, your full season can consist of the top, 5 plays from each highlight film themselves. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is you want to make sure that it's the best plays in that order. Okay, we're going back to best plays. Every time you make a highlight film, it's not chronological, it's best plays. So if you take the first 5 plays of week 1, the first 5 plays of your highlight for week 2, and the first 5 plays from your highlight of week 3, you don't necessarily want to put the first 5 of week 1 first, right? Because that came from game 1. Now you have those 15 plays, right? 5, 5, and 5. So you need to find the best play, right? It starts all over again. Every time you make a highlight, it needs to be the best play out of those. So the same thing goes for your full season. The best play of the season, which should be the number 1 play in one of those highlight clips. The first play, which in whichever one of those highlight films is the best play of your season, should be the first play on your full season highlight film. I really hope that kind of makes sense, because I feel like I'm just repeating myself on that. And then the most important part, well, I guess when it comes to connecting your highlight film with Twitter, is every time you update a new highlight film, guess what you should do with your Twitter? You should update that pinned tweet with a screen recorded highlight film. Okay. Every time you make a new highlight, you need to update Twitter. So if you cut up your film and you create highlights, let's say every Sunday, you play on Friday, Saturday, you're going through your stuff and whatever you're doing on Saturday. If you do them Saturday night or Sunday, whatever, but whenever you post that highlight, right, you need to immediately take it to Twitter, make sure it's screen recorded as well, take it to Twitter and update that tweet, that pinned tweet. You just make a new tweet and tweet it out there and then pin that one immediately. And keep it moving. That should be an everyday routine. Like, you should do that as a checklist. Okay, so those are the do's. Those are the do's. Now the don'ts. We're going to get into the don'ts, okay? One of the biggest things that you do not want to do with your highlight film is alter the playback speed in either direction. Nobody wants slow-mo. It does not look cool at all. It's actually very annoying, right? And it actually makes it harder to evaluate you. It doesn't help you, it hurts you. And then speeding it up is a quick way to get your name erased from a board. If it ever even was on one, right? Speeding up your film is a quick way to get that turned off, and nobody's going to touch it. Do not alter the playback speed of the plays. Just leave it alone, all right? The next don't is don't waste time. Again, I told you these do's and don'ts are going to overlap, but don't waste time. You don't have a lot of it, okay? It's limited time. So the play starts immediately after the identifier, and then you need to be on to the next once your job is done. Point blank and simple. Don't want to see any unnecessary lulls in action. We don't need it. It needs to be on to the next. All right? Don't want to see you walking around. Don't want to see you celebrating. It's not necessary. All right, on to the next, okay? That's not how college coaches are watching the film. It might look cool to you. It might look cool to your parents. It might look cool to your friends. Cool story. Not a single one of them can give you a scholarship. It doesn't look cool to the people who can. So why would you do it? And that's what we're trying to get at, right? Let's get rid of all the unnecessary stuff. Another unnecessary one that you don't need is any type of audio, right? Music is one of the worst things. If you use the huddle music, it's terrible. All huddle music sucks. It's just the absolute worst. Huddle, in my opinion, for what it is that they're used for, they probably couldn't care less about what it is that their consumers actually need. They couldn't care less. Between the ads and the ridiculous add-on stuff, the dumb music, the ridiculous unnecessary identifiers, like that stuff isn't needed, and they know it's not needed. As far as, watching stuff, I mean, I guess the ads part kind of helps with money. Obviously there's always revenue and stuff. It just hurts when you're forced to watch an ad for 15 to 30 seconds, because some guys just won't do it and they'll move on. That's why screen recording now needs to be the thing to bypass these ads. Huddle couldn't care less, right? So they're going to have it on there because they think that, whatever their reason for it was, if somebody who actually cared about the way recruiting is done and knew about it, they would take all that stuff out of there to help. It would actually help, right? Sometimes having more options and more access to unnecessary bells and whistles is a hindrance. So music is annoying. You don't need it. Don't add it. Crowd noise can be even worse, right? I've watched film and I hear parents dropping all types of crazy language in the film because it's coming from the camera noise and camera picked it up. You don't have a say over whether or not audio is being recorded, but you do have the power to mute those clips on Huddle. Just mute them, man. And they don't watch it with sound anyway. No, they're not trying to listen to anything. Then most of the time they're talking about stuff. Now they got to mute the TV. They got to mute their computer. They got to mute their phone or whatever it is. It's just one of those annoyances that by itself doesn't sound like a big deal. But when you do this hundreds of times every couple of days, you're doing this 1,000 times a month, those little annoyances all of a sudden become big deals. And it could just be luck of the draw where he just might not feel like dealing with that. And so he turns it off, doesn't even watch it. And there's more of you than there are of them. And you need them more than they necessarily need you, unless you are him. And if you are him, that's a different story. Again, these rules don't apply to hims. They apply to the rest of us. Okay. That's just how rules go. There's always people who can afford to get around the rules, and the majority of us cannot. So these are just little things, right? Mute your stuff. Nobody needs it. Don't order your film in chronological order. We already gone over that, but I'm going to say it again. You do that, that will hurt you, especially because your film's not to show your progression. It's to show the best of what you are right now. We don't want to see what you can be. Okay. The storytelling of your film isn't to say, this is what I look like, and then the further you watch it, this is how good I became. Ain't nobody trying to watch that, because most of them won't get that far anyway, right? You got less than a minute to convince them. It doesn't even take that long. In 5 plays, I can tell whether or not you're D1, whether or not you're D2, whether or not you're D3 in AIA, or if you're just a really good football player. We can see that in the first 5 plays. That's why it's important for you to make sure the first 5 are the best that they can be, so we can see what the best is. So do not order them chronologically. That's what the actual games are for. We'll watch the season if we need to. Okay. Back to the identifiers. Avoid switching identifiers when possible. Keep it as simple as possible. All right. Now, using that simple circle works best when you're in space. Okay. And it's easy to put a circle around a single player. If you're a wide receiver and you're using the circle a lot, and then all of a sudden you end up in a bunch and that circle kind of highlights the bunch. If you're in a 3-man bunch or one of those 4-man diamond stack things that these pass game coordinator guys like to draw up, use an arrow. It just makes it easier, okay? As long as the timing is about the same, because you got to think of the way that the mind works. And that's where a lot of this comes from for me. A lot of my advice is going to come from human behaviors, right? Whether people are cognizant of them or not. The way that our minds work and the way that we consume certain things, a lot of it happens subconsciously and people don't even recognize it. So if you can kind of crack that code as well and understand, by the 3rd or 4th play, If everything has been the same, the timing has been the same, it's a pre-snap identifier, then the play starts immediately. Pre-snap identifier, then the play starts immediately. If that pre-snap identifier has to change, that's fine as long as the timeline kind of stays the same, because the mind is already kind of on a pattern at that point watching your film. It gets more and more comfortable, and there's less of the other stuff that has to be worried about. They're not having to try to figure out where you are. So if you have to change the identifier from a circle to an arrow or vice versa, just know that doing it on the timing frame will help, but avoid all the wonky ones. All right. That stuff's not necessary, man. The watch this, dog time, and whatever other ridiculous nonsense that they have on there. Okay. It looks cool to you guys. It's all the bells and whistles, but it's actually not. And that's kind of what all those unnecessary identifiers are. So another don't is don't overdo it by adding too much on your film. Okay. 2.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes is a sweet spot on target time. Again, I get it. Okay. I know you have more you feel like you want to show. At that point, you're probably overdoing it. There are plenty of highlight film checklists per positions that you can look up where you want to make sure you show certain things. If it only takes you 2.5 minutes to show that stuff, you don't need to show anything more, right? As a matter of fact, the less, the better. Because if you can show all that stuff and you check all those boxes, and each one of those plays that checks each one of those boxes looks amazing, they're going to want to go see you. But if you start adding more and it doesn't hold up, and now it's like, oh, we saw a play that was kind of like that where he looked great. Now I see this one and it's not as good. If I see it again and it's not as good, it's like, ooh, was that play that got me excited? Was that a one-off? Now you're getting critiqued by your highlight film. And that's not what your highlight film is for. You don't want to be critiqued as much as possible. You want to avoid that as much as possible, because once they can start to critique you, right? Now you get to a point where they're like, maybe I might want to see this person. You know what? We'll send him a camp invite. But at first I was kind of high on him in the first minute or so. And then we got to like the 2-minute mark and it just kind of seemed like it was falling off. Or I was high on him, at 2.5 minutes, I was watching that whole film and then ended up getting to 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And those last plays just didn't do it, which kind of brings me to one that I forgot to mention in the do's. End on a high note, right? Your first 10 plays need to be the best 10 plays that you have. Okay, let's just put a round number on it. And let's say you have a highlight film that has 20 plays on it. I would say your first 13 need to be your top 13. If the last 7 of that, right, and 20 plays, your number 14 best play can actually be play 20, right? And the reason why I say that, and this is another way that the mind works, but you end on not necessarily a cliffhanger, but end on a high note. So if play 13 is great, play 14 is really, really good, it's borderline great, and play 15 is really, really good, 16 is good, 17 is good, 18 is good, 19 is good, end on one that's better than the last ones, right? End on a high note is really what I'm getting at. I'm not necessarily saying to put one of your top 10 plays at the end. Don't do that. But you can put a top 15 play, right? And when I say a top 15 play, I mean from 11 to 15. You can put one of those plays at play 20 and end on that note. And it end on something that gets guys to go, oh man, that was a good one. Okay. That's just a little bit of a pro tip. Now, the last don't forget to share. All right. I already went back. It was the last do as well. All right. Update your pinned tweet. Don't forget to share your updated film. When you make this highlight, don't forget to update your pinned tweet on Twitter and then send that out. Send it out. Send it out to your recruiting advisors, your trainers, make sure that they watch it, get their opinions, send it out to whatever college coaches you're building relationships with, GAs, assistants. Pro tip, that's probably where you should be sending them anyway. If there's a school that you're interested in and you want to know if you can be evaluated for them, go to their staff directory, look for the assistants. All right, scroll down for the names at the bottom. Look for the assistants that work either on that side of the ball or just recruiting assistants, and then find them on Twitter because they're always looking for film. That's really their main job. And reach out to them, send it to them. You'll have a better opportunity of getting through to them than you probably would at getting through to the head coach or the coordinators. Unless unless you're like that, or two, unless you already have the connections with them. But if it's cold, a cold call or a code message, it'd be easier to start on the lower end than starting on the high end. Hindsight moment. During the editing part of this podcast, I actually realized that there are 2 points that I forgot. So that's why this section sounds a little different, because I recorded this one after I recorded the whole episode. But I forgot a do and a don't. So we'll start with the don't that I forgot. And the don't that I forgot to mention originally was, don't play the same play more than once in your highlight. And understand something, just because it's a different angle, it's still the same play, right? The different angle of the same play is still the same play. Don't do that. Pick the best angle, put that one on your film. Don't replay it. It messes with the mind of the viewer, because when that play happens, the first thing that clicks, it's almost like a wait a minute. I feel like something's off with that play. Don't do that, all right? It's just a waste of time. And I've seen guys basically repeat film using drone and sideline footage and end zone footage. So don't replay the same play twice, all right? And then the do that I forgot is to make a highlight film for each side of the ball. Now, what I mean there is if you are a two-way starter, if you play on offense and you play on defense and you have enough film for an offense and a defensive highlight, make a offense and defensive highlight. Don't put them together. Now, I know that there are guys out there that have their film and they're together and it works perfectly fine. Again, those guys probably aren't the ones that I'm talking to anyway. But even then, I would still suggest that they split their film up into an offensive and a defensive film. Now, the first thing is your best plays need to be on the film, regardless of what side of the ball that they're on. If they are the most outstanding plays and you have an offensive and a defensive film, then those most outstanding plays should be on both films. But once you get into more of the position specific stuff, feel free to split that film into an offensive and defensive film. The reason why you want to do that, and why it's a good idea, is because if you're sending your film to a defensive coach, he doesn't want to watch you on the offensive side of the ball. And if the first half of the film is all offense and then it goes into defense, that makes no sense. They're not going to sit through that. They're not going to skip forward. They're going to wonder why you sent it to them. Okay, so if you split it into an offensive film and a defensive film, you get to send your offensive film to O coaches and your D film to D coaches, and you can send that to the same staff, and you split it up without them having to sit through film and through clips that isn't their side of the ball. So if you play on both sides of the ball and you have enough plays to make a highlight film, and what that means is you have, I don't know, a minute or more of film for either side of the ball, make that tape by itself so you can send it to that side. You can make a special teams one if you have enough special teams, or you can take the special teams and you can put it on your offensive and your defensive film, right? But when you go primarily one position and then you have clips that are primarily another position, and they're, not necessarily the most outstanding show-stopping plays that you have, split it up. That's the hindsight. All right, back to the conclusion. That's really it when it comes to the truth about highlight film. I mean, it's not To me, I don't think it's as difficult to understand. It's just more so the unspoken nuances and what it is that your target audience is watching and who your target audience is. Okay. So, got to make sure you know that film is the most important aspect of recruiting, it's the most important one. Know your target audience, college coaches, anybody who can give you a scholarship, and then know what it is your target audience wants to see. Understand that your first 1 to 3 plays are so critical because they will determine if anything else gets watched. The first play might determine if anything else gets watched. You got 1 to 3 plays to convince that college coach to watch another 1 to 3 plays, and it restarts every play. Make sure that you don't add unnecessary stuff. Keep it short, keep it as simple as possible. Don't ever mess with the playback speed. I think if there's one don't on there that I think is the biggest one is don't mess with the playback speed. And the second one is don't waste time. Those are the two biggest don'ts. Don't mess with the playback speed. Don't waste time. Other than that, make sure you get your film out there. I hope that this was informative, that you were able to learn something from this and kind of helps you out. And if you have any further questions or anything like that, you can feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at CoachWest_23. As much as I can, I'd like to provide insight and help to whomever. It could be a parent, could be a player, could be another coach, anything to help try to bridge the gap between high school and college, because high school recruiting has taken a strong hit because of everything else that is going on. And it has more to do, in my opinion, with high school guys just not simply being prepared and ready for college football. And that's why the transfer portal is being used so much, because why go to the port or why go through high school when those kids aren't ready when I can go to the portal? But if you can show that you're a high school kid who is ready, they'll recruit you. It's honestly cheaper in some senses, if they don't have to pay NIL, and if you are an in-state tuition type person, it's cheaper for them to take a a college-ready high school prospect than it is for them to take, I would say, an unproven college transfer portal guy, because there are a lot of guys in the portal who just aren't proven at their level, but because they're transferring, it sounds cooler. I'm not going to get into that. That doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, appreciate you for listening. So get your film. Make sure that film is ready to go and have that one up. Until next time, peace.